Hello, fourth grade, and welcome to lesson 9-2. In this lesson, we're going to work on decomposing fractions. So when you decompose a fraction, it basically means you're breaking it apart into smaller pieces. Let's go ahead and watch our video lesson, and then we'll jump into our notes and guided practice together.
How can you represent a fraction in a variety of ways? Charlene wants to leave 1/6 of her garden empty. What are some different ways Charlene can plant the rest of her garden?
There's more than one answer to this question.
Into how many equal parts is the garden divided? The garden is divided into 6 equal parts. What is the name of each part? Each part is named 1/6. How much of the garden will be planted? 5/6 of the garden will be planted. Decompose means to break into parts. Compose means to combine parts. The fraction of the garden that Charlene will plant can be decomposed in more than one way. One way. Charlene could plant 4 1/6 sections with blue flowers and 1 1/6 section with red peppers. What do 4/6 and 1/6 represent? 4/6 represents the fraction of the garden that is planted with blue flowers, and 1/6 represents the fraction of the garden that is planted with red peppers. What does the sum 5/6 represent? 5/6 is the fraction of the entire garden that is planted. How can you show this in an addition equation? The addition equation 5/6 equals 4/6 plus 1/6 shows this way to plant the garden. Another way. Charlene could plant 1 1/6 section with green beans, 1 1/6 section with yellow squash, 1 1/6 section with red peppers, and 2 1/6 sections with blue flowers. Select the fractions to see which parts of the garden they represent. One of the 5 filled sections is green beans. One of the 5 filled sections is yellow squash. One of the 5 filled sections is red peppers. 2 of the 5 filled sections are blue flowers. Does 4/6 plus 1/6 equal 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 2/6? How do you know? Yes, because both expressions are equal to 5/6. 4/6 plus 1/6 equals 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 2/6. Now you know how to represent a fraction in a variety of ways.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our notes and our guided practice in this section. So we have our title at the top, 9-2, Decompose Fractions. How can you represent a fraction in different ways? These are our 3 vocabulary words that we're going to work with. We're going to work with the word decompose, which means to break apart, compose, which means to combine parts, and then we're also going to talk later about mixed numbers. Mixed numbers have a whole part and a fraction part to them. So 3½ over here is a mixed fraction. It's mixed with whole numbers and fraction parts. Let's take a look at an example. We want to decompose 4/6 in 2 different ways. So we need to stop and think. I need to show 2 ways to make 4/6 or 4 parts of my whole. That's 6 total parts. So I'm going to try it out. How can I break apart 4? So here we're just looking at your basic math facts. Go back to your addition. How do you make 4? You can make 4 by doing 3 plus 1, or you can make 4 by doing 2 plus 2. So 4 over 6 is equal to 1 over 6 plus 3 over 6. You can show that here using our fraction strips. 1/6 plus 3 more 6 equals 4/6. Or I could do 4/6 is equal to 2/6 plus another 2/6. So these two plus these two, 2 plus 2 is 4. And since we're working with the same whole out of 6 pieces, our denominator, remember, stays the same. If you have a like denominator, you do not change it. The denominator stays the same because we're working with parts of the same whole. And our numerator our numerators are the numbers that get added together. So both of these ways show how to decompose 4/6, but they do it in a different way. So remember, you are not changing the denominator. All you need to do is show different ways to make the numerator, and that's it. That's how you decompose. Let's take a look at another example. How can you decompose 1 3/5? So this is a mixed number. Remember, we have a whole number part and a fraction part. Remember, mixed numbers are mixed. They have both kinds of numbers, whole numbers and fractions. So think, what is a different way that I can rewrite this mixed number? So if I have 1 3/5, I can do my 1 whole plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 is equal to 3/5. Or I could do my 1 whole plus 1/5 plus 2/5. 1 plus 2 is 3, 3/5, and there's my 1 whole. Or I can rewrite my whole in fraction form using fifths. So since all of these are fifths, we'll write this using fifths. So 5/5, which is 1 whole, plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 is also going to give me 1 whole plus 3/5, because we know this is equal to 1, and then 1, 2, 3 parts out of 5 parts. Now let's decompose another number. So we're going to decompose 7 over 8 in 2 different ways. And remember, your denominator doesn't change. It stays the same. When you have a like denominator, you keep that like denominator. So 7 over 8. Let's stop and think. How can I make 7 by adding? I can do 5 plus 2 is 7. I can do 4 plus 3. That also makes 7. I can do 1 plus 6 makes 7. Those are all different options. So if I'm looking for just 2 ways, 7 over 8, so make sure your denominator stays 8 for all of these, is equal to 5 over 8 and 2 over 8. 7 over 8 is also equal to 3 over 8 and 4 over 8. These are both ways to make 7. So our denominator, you're just filling it in. You're writing it in advance. You don't even need to think about it. The number you need to think about is your numerator. So how do I make 7? 3 plus 4 makes 7. 5 plus 2 makes 7. Now let's take a look at our guided practice. So for our guided practice, we have 4 questions. Number 1 says, what is another way to decompose 3 1/8? So in the example in the book, they give you these 2 ways. So 3 whole, this is our mixed number, 3 whole and 1/8 piece. So you can do 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1/8. So that's 1, 2, 3 and 1/8. You could write it as 8 over 8 plus 8 over 8 plus 8 over 8, because remember, these are all equal to 1 whole, plus the number, another 1 over 8. That's also going to give you 3/8. And then we did 2 other ways that we could do it. I did 1 whole plus 1 whole plus 8 over 8, which is also 1 whole, plus 1 over 8 equals 3/8. Or I did 1 whole plus 8 over 8 plus 8 over 8 plus 1 over 8 is also going to give me 3/8. So remember, anytime your numerator and denominator are the same, it's equal to 1 whole. Number 2 says, look at the area model. What fraction with a greater numerator is equal to 3 1/8? So we're going to figure out how to rewrite 3 1/8 using what we call an improper fraction, where your numerator is bigger than your denominator. So what I can do is I can rewrite 2 of my whole numbers together in fraction form and then add the remaining parts. So instead of doing 8 over 8 plus 8 over 8, I can do 16 over 8, because 16 is 2 times 8. So this is equal to 2 whole, plus 1 over 8, which is equal to another 1 whole, plus 1/8. So this is 2 whole plus 1 whole, that's the 3 whole, plus 1/8. So 3 1/8. Now for numbers 3 and 4, 3 is asking you to find 2 different ways to make 3/5. So we could do 1/5 plus 2/5 because 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. Or we could do 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. And notice our denominator does not change, it stays the same. For number 4, we have 1 3/4. We want to write it 2 different ways. So we could do 1 plus 3/4, or we could do 4/4 plus 3/4. So basically what we did was we took our 1 whole and we rewrote it in fraction form using that same denominator that we had. That's it for this lesson. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Remember, whenever you're adding fractions that have a like denominator, your denominator does not change. It always stays the same. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.